very good Monday morning to you. You are watching Y254 channel, and this is Why in the Morning. And on Mondays, this is a very special segment where we have youth and politics, where we discuss issues happening in the world of politics and how they're impacting us young people and what us young people can do to get our voices heard. And for today, if you do want to participate in the conversation, by the way, do slide into our DM. The number is 22162. Start with YM254. On Twitter, we're at Y254 channel. The hashtag is Why in the Morning. And on Facebook, we're at Y254. And if you do miss an interview, do slide up or to YouTube at Y254 channel and make sure you catch up with us in case you missed it. Now, with me in studio, I'd like my guests to introduce themselves and say good morning to you. So let me start with you, Kaberia.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Kaberia Barrio. I'm a political analyst. Welcome to the show.
All right.
Morning, viewers. My name is Apio JF Apio, Third Year Alliance National Youth Leader. Welcome to the show.
All right.
Morning, viewers. My name is Joel Kwemei. I'm the team leader, Youth Governors Kenya.
Team leader, Youth Governors Kenya.
Yes.
Very good. So we have our young leaders here very, very ready to represent. And today we want to discuss the pros and cons of this proposed referendum, because the Deputy President has really been vocal about his disapproval of it. And we'd just like to understand it also, if we're even included when it comes to this proposed referendum. Fine, we're the ones who will go and sign things, but are we really included as the young people? How does it benefit us? Let's look at it from that perspective. However, before we delve into our main topic of the day, as you know, we like to talk about issues arising. Now, there's one gentleman who we respect a lot who goes by the name of Patrick Lumumba, who the other day was in Zambia but happened to be deported based on some of the remarks that he made. And this has stirred up a whole conversation, and people are now asking, is China becoming the new colonizing power in Africa? So before I allow my guests to make a comment on that, let's just hear Patrick Lumumba out and see what he had to say.
And the answer is, I doubt. Why do I doubt? I doubt because at the end of the entire enterprise, the Chinese president said that he had given, or his government had given, 60 billion United States dollars to 54 African countries. Notionally, therefore, each country would be entitled to no more than 1.5 billion. Half of the presidents who are present in China, each one of them, half of them, can produce 1.5 billion. Sportsmen in Europe and America, including boxers, can earn $1 billion in a single bout. And we are here celebrating and singing the praises of China because they gave us 60 billion. Once again, it is a statement of their ability to recognize what leadership is all about. I'm submitting to us that when we interact with people like the Chinese, there is something to learn from them. We may condemn them at fora such as this, but there is wisdom in asking ourselves, how is it that this country, which about 30 years ago could not feed half our population, has in 30 years during our lifetime succeeded in pulling up nearly 800 million people out of poverty? How is it that every road that is now being built in Africa, whether the road is in Benin or in Nairobi, Kenya, or in Johannesburg, South Africa, or in Kigali, in Rwanda, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, there is a Chinese firm whose name I cannot pronounce as the contractor for that firm? How is it? How is it that China, which about 30 years ago did not produce a mobile phone, today, out of every 10 mobile phones, we are using 6 which are from China? If it is not Techno, it is some other phone. If we are not inviting Jack Ma, we are inviting another Chinese, because we have seen that they have the ability to organize their affairs. Some of us, particularly those of us who are in the middle class, our pride is that our child is learning Mandarin as a second language, not isiZulu, Mandarin. I fear, Bishop, that in the next few years, when they bring their children for baptism, and you ask them, how do you name this child? they're saying Deng Xiaoping simfiwe. I'm still talking about leadership. We have seen what leadership can do. Leadership has catapulted China to another completely different orbit. We have seen that leadership has catapulted South Korea to a different orbit. We have seen that leadership has catapulted Vietnam, which was bombed to the ground in 1975. Vietnam now produces more coffee than all African countries combined.
All right. That was one gentleman, Patrick Lumumba. And we'd like to understand from the young leaders in studio, what stood out for you the most? Because from the part of the speech that I've had, he's mostly praising and telling us we should learn lessons. But there are also some other issues that arise from this particular group of people now coming and doing business with us here in Kenya. I'd just like to hear your opinions real quick. Let me start with you, Kabere.
Well, I think what stood out for me is that there is a very huge appetite of the African president of borrowing loans from Chinese. And this is because, not that we need those loans so much, but because of the incentives and other things which are coming from the Chinese. And as we've heard from PLO and also what we are able to read in the newspaper, the Chinese government gave 6 trillion when you want to put it in like Kenyan shillings.
Yeah.
For the data and other things. But when they give out that money for infrastructure, what portion goes back to them?
Yeah.
So that's the big question, because you can see, even in the roads, the building coming up in Nairobi,
Yes.
they are all being done by Chinese.
Yeah.
That means it's not as a grant or maybe a good thing as people may see, but they're in business. They want to make money, and they want also to penetrate and also to be able to control some state organs and all that, so that it can be very easy for them to penetrate.
I see. So there's some control aspect in it.
Yes.
All right. What do you think, Apio?
Number one, first, I have to acknowledge that what Professor P.L. Lumumba, is a professor or a doctor, is saying, I think it is exactly true, and there is some sense in whatever he's saying. But as well, I would want to make a remark. And this is what I have to say. Somebody said that Africans have not realized their potential. Because it is a dream for every African child or African youth that when he grows, he wants to go to China, he wants to go to USA. Not knowing or not taking into account that the US and the Chinese are really scrambling to come to Africa.
Yeah.
So I think from what PL has been explaining there, from all that speech, we need to learn something as youths, that we have a potential in our continent, and it only depends with the scope and the direction we are going to take as a country and as a continent to ensure we fully exploit what we have, not Chinese and the Europeans coming here to dictate and tell us what we're supposed to be doing. That is my position.
All right. So for you, it's about the young people acknowledging all the potential that there is in Africa, that these other people want to control us so much.
Exactly.
All right.
For me, what I got is China understood the art of perfection in what they're doing. And that is what they're using to trade and manipulate African countries. My question is, if Kenya, we really understood what is it that we are good at, and what can we use, how can we use it also to, to penetrate other markets abroad or in the other continents?
Why can't we be the colonizers for
Yeah, that is the question. For instance, we know sports. And to be specific, athletes is one of our main areas of strength. Why should we not, as a country, package it and use it not to penetrate other countries? You see.
So that is a solution. You've come with one solution. I like that. However, the issue of them being colonizers has come about because people are questioning. When they come and build here in this country and do what have you, they use their own logos, their own, even in Chinese, and people are like, okay, so are we together? Is this something you're doing for us? In fact, I'd like to outline some statistics that was released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics that said that we have imported goods, Chinese goods, worth 390 billion, but we have only sold 10 billion to China, which is peculiar to me, if you ask me. So that's where the issue of, are they using brute force? Are they trying, the sticks and carrots kind of methods? Are they beating us but blowing it at the same time?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, there is the control aspect. One thing, I was reading an article that most of the fish in Kenya comes from Chinese. They are even bringing fish here in Kenya.
Goodness.
Looking that we have Lake Victoria, which is producing a lot of fish. So like even our own local goods are competing with Chinese products. And we have a lot of consumer goods, naming the issue of rice and all that coming from China. So, but I ask myself, there is Kenya Bureau of Statistics, there is the Kenya Revenue Authority, there is the brand Kenya, which is there like to package Kenya, at least to make Kenya.
But then we need to follow up on that brand Kenya now.
Yeah. So like I was asking myself, like, do they really look at those aspects before even allowing the fish to come in Kenya?
Yes.
Is there, have we come at a point whereby you are saying the fish from Lake Victoria, the fish from Tana River and all those places that they are not adequate enough for the consumption of the country that you are getting from China? Looking at the difference between 400, there's around difference of 400 billion, which is too much. And we have a lot of things to sell in, from Kenya.
And that debt will fall on us young
Exactly,
people.
they will.
Okay.
Maybe I think if we trace our history as well, Kenya as a country was not pro-East until such a time President Moi Kibaki in 2013 invited these people to come and build Thika Highway. Thika Highway.
So that is where the mess began.
So me, in my position, I think it was a decision made by government. It was autonomous. So the first person to be blamed is the government, because maybe number one, Chinese were offering very, very cheap loans that cannot be accountable. You know, countries like Germany and what cannot just give you loans like that because they want accountability, they want transparency, and they want service. They want you to account for what you've done with the money. But China is giving out money to African presidents, and the money is cheap, and the money is not being followed. So me, I think it is a decision that was made by our government. So if we were to resist or probably desist from having Chinese staffs everywhere in the country, then it will start by a decision made at probably the meeting at the president and the cabinet secretaries meeting that will decide and resolve that. As a country, we want to move forward, but these are the conditions, or these are the sanctions we are putting on ground, or these are the terms and conditions we'll be working with anyone who want to do business. I like what Cabinet Secretary Matiang'i said the other day. We are seeing these people coming to our country in all scopes, in all styles, in all dimensions, in everything. In fact, nearly they're going to dominate every sector in our country. So there must be a probe and a proper verification for these people to come to our country. I blame the national government if they have to be sincere with us, then they have to put on the table what is this good sweet they are getting from China that we cannot get from countries that believes in accountability and transparency, not what we are seeing from the East. As a matter of fact, me, at my personal level, I don't believe that any country going pro-East is destined for no,
that one is a stereotype. We never know. Anyway, let's listen to the Youth Governors Kenya team leader.
Okay, I think I concur with my colleagues. And okay, firstly, we need to understand that it's not wrong to trade with any other country.
100, yes.
But we also need to look at what are the factors, what determines our terms in terms of doing business together. And I think our leaders need to be keen, you know, at looking at what are the details in all these deals that we are getting into. Because for me, I think greed has taken over most of our leaders, and they tend to, you know, to be excited or mesmerized by things that, or deals that they know. First of all, it will benefit them as individuals before it extends to them. To the other members of the society. And I think that's where there's a gap.
There's some selfishness mentality.
Some selfishness.
Now, speaking of excited leaders and selfishness and what have you, you know, today's topic is the impact of this proposed new referendum. Now that talk has come up again about it. And I'd like to discuss with you guys as the youth leaders, what can you see as some of the pros and cons of having this referendum? It has its cons, yes, but it also has its pros. And we'd like to highlight that to the public so that they can also make a decision. However, let's start with our deputy president, because our deputy president was very frustrated the other day, and he feels like this referendum has come to cut off his legs when it comes to his 2022 ambitions. So let's just have a look at what our deputy president had to say, and then we can go right back into that conversation.
nilikuwa ODM na nikafukuzwa ODM, nikapelekwa kotini, vile hawa kina Aisha na Dori wameandikiwa barua, hata na mimi niliandikiwa barua. Sasa wale nataka niwaambie, hamuwezi kunifukuza ODM ati mkanifuata ati mnanifukuza Jubilee. Haiwezekani. Hiyo haiwezekani bwana. Ati wanajipanga huko porojo, fitina, tutavunja Jubilee. Watavunja Jubilee ya nani? Hiyo ni ndoto ya mchana nani? Hiyo msahau kabisa. Muende mtafute kazi nyingine ya kufanya. Hiyo haiwezekani. Tunaelewana? Tuko zote. Therefore, I want to categorically state that we have no space for gossip and propaganda and conmanship in our party and in our government. We don't have space for those things. So if you think you're going to use the handshake to export conmanship into our party, we are telling you that's not going to happen. Fanyeni kazi ingine ya maana. Tunaelewana? Hiyo muelewe na mapema.
All right. So let's do this. Let's first go to the root of this referendum, which is the handshake. Now, when Raila and Uhuru sat together and decided that we are one nation, they came up with nine particular ambitions that they had set going forward. And this was addressing ethnic strife, fighting corruption, strengthening devolution, ending divisive politics, safeguarding national security, propagate a national ethos, and inculcate inclusivity. So under this inclusivity, Ruto's argument is that the proposed creation of the office of an executive prime minister will emasculate the presidency. So we'd like to understand from you, why is it this inclusivity and these new positions being created, are we being played, or is there some value in creating these positions? Now maybe the pros of having this position of an executive prime minister.
Well, I think, to my opinion, it's selfish. Simply because even at the time when it's coming out, as when you look, this is the second term and the last term for most of the political leaders, with specific on president and also most of the governors.
Yeah.
So there was a feeling that some people in the government, they feel it's too early for them to go to retirement. And we've heard that being quoted at so many events. And then they were trying to look at what do we do? Because now we can't have this person just outside there in the cold, as they put it. So I think the call for referendum is try to create spaces for individuals, not just because the system we have is ineffective or they want to make service more efficient in terms of delivery, but it's because they want to make somebody being included, not the interest of the public. Looking at the cost of referendum, 10 billion.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Yeah.
We are struggling to raise that $1 billion as a nation.
Yes.
And then you are telling us about going to referendum at the cost of 10 billion. So I think that's selfish. That's something which we should go back the drawing board, and that's something we should resist even before, as soon as yesterday.
We should resist.
Yes.
Okay.
I would want to be probably look at this thing in three ways, or give my understanding in three ways. Number one, all of us understand the politics of ex-Prime Minister Raila Odinga. I think he has lost election thrice, or this now the third time or fourth time. And all of them usually originates from a referendum. Hilda, we cannot keep on changing constitution every year in, year out for the benefit of the few. If a referendum is a must or is inevitable in this country, let that referendum address, number one, more allocation to counties. Two, we reduce the number of parliamentary seats.
Yes.
And number three, we strengthen Senate with veto powers that can fully understand and have an oversight role over MPs and people who are looting public funds. You get it? For example, what Deputy President William Ruto is talking about. In the handshake, something that you've not read there, ex-Prime Minister Raila Odinga proposed a three-tier government comprising of an executive prime minister that should be elected by the members of parliament, presidency, which was ceremonial, and
is that the emasculation he's talking
parliamentary.
about,
You get it?
emasculating presidents?
That was the epitome of that handshake, that we are going to have a three-tier government. We would propose, we in third way, that if it is a must, we are going to the referendum, which for us we are pushing. We are simply pushing a referendum to ensure that, number one, we cut the cost of running parliament from the current 36.8 billion to 5 billion. That, from current numbers of members of parliament we are seeing is around 340 nominated, makes it 416. If we can reduce that number to 190, we are going to save the country 30 billion. You get it?
Yeah.
Number two, if we have to change our constitution or amend our constitution, we also have a feeling, or we are advocating that wards to be the primary units of development. Let us take money to the wards. If you divide the money that is being allocated to the counties,
Isn't that the punguza mizigo instead of this, this other
we are
referendum?
going to have around 21 million going to every ward.
Okay.
Let the MCA and the people within a ward look on how they can handle the money, or they can use the money to empower themselves. But we cannot call for a referendum at this time that we want to change the structure and the apex point or the focal point of government, whereby instead of having a president, we are going to have now prime minister, executive. We cannot every morning, every year, every election year, we want to secure jobs for very few people who, you know, it is a personal decision to go for elections.
I would like to ask, now that they have put these titles and these particular jobs that they'd like to take, where are the youth in this?
That is what
if
I'm
you
telling
reduce
you.
the representation, where are the youth?
If they do what?
If they reduce the representation, where are the youth in it? Fine, they have their 3 tiers, they are trying to reduce 14.
That is why, in our position, we believe that we cannot keep on securing jobs for old people who are probably in politics and they have failed to secure positions they want. If you were to probably change the constitution for everyone to get a job, how many youths are jobless as we speak?
That's true.
How many people are unemployed across the country?
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10 of youths, if you take randomly, are unemployed.
Yes.
So the position that we are having as a party, or the position as youths, let me now speak on behalf of youths. If we are going to have a referendum in this country, that referendum should not aim at changing the structure of the apex government. It must focus on, number one, taking more money to the counties, reducing the cost of running parliament, and ensuring Senate has got veto powers to ensure that the oversight we are speaking about is real.
All right. Let's hear from the youth governors of Kenya.
Hilda, you know, nowadays, I really don't trust politicians.
None of us do.
But that's a wrong perspective, because politics in itself should be, you know, something that is credible. But now the characters within the political realm have really misinterpreted what politics should be all about. And coming back to the issue of referendum, no law is 100% perfect. And that means even a constitution is not 100% perfect. But again, when you want to change a constitution, what factors, you know, drive us to change that constitution? Currently in our country, we understand issues of over-representation.
Yes.
Actually, for me, it's not even about MPs. We need to even look at how can we, you know, reduce the number of governors, because county governments comes with a lot of, you know, a lot of expenses as well.
In fact, I think we need to let the public know just how many they are. Now that you're talking about over-representation. So we have 47 governors, 67 senators, 349 elected MPs. You told me that the nominated was
16 total plus nominated, both
in the
upper and the lower house.
Okay, then we have 47 women representatives, and then we have 1,450 members of county assembly.
Those are elected.
All on payroll.
And they are nominated.
1,800
as well.
800 nominated, sorry.
So Hilda, what we need to do is, and I think we need to talk to our young people. I think it's high time in a country like ours, we really need to rise up and, you know, point fingers to these guys who are trying to mislead our country. You know, for me, I feel bad. These leaders have been in this country since time immemorial. Raila has existed since the 1960s, 70s.
From the beginning.
But, you know, what they are used to telling us, you know, is telling us stories about other countries which have progressed.
Yeah.
You know, Malaysia, you know, Singapore. My question to them is, what were they doing when these countries were progressing? What were they doing when our country was going downwards? So I think for me, if the issue of referendum does not address the issues that affect the common mwananchi, issues of, you know, dealing with the overrepresentation,
Tax.
issues of taxation,
Yeah.
issues of opportunities to for the young people and general Kenyans, then I think that referendum thing should just get out of our eyes and our minds.
All right. Let us just first listen to One Wetangula, because he tried to dissect this particular proposal for this constitution to set the reasons why we should review this constitution and we need a referendum. However, Kenyans were suggesting why don't we have the referendum at the same time we're having the elections, so that we can pay for all of it together. Not that now next year there we have a referendum, then we go paying for general elections again over there. So apparently this referendum is important. It's important, and it's going to solve some of our issues, especially when it comes to over-representation. So it's necessary. We do need to review the constitution, but just not next year. That is the opinion of many Kenyans. I know, Apio, you're here to vouch for third ways, Muguza Mizigo, but let's not be biased. Okay, so let's first listen to Wetangula. Let us see him dissecting this particular proposed referendum.
In comparable jurisdictions, and we have said it over and over, once a constitution is promulgated and put in effect, you put it to a test, run with it for 1 term or 2 terms, and then subject it to a public audit. You'll be able to tell what works and what doesn't. I agree with you, and I said this even in Naivasha. You can check the Hansard when we were preparing this constitution, that we were creating too many elected positions in this country. We have too many constituencies. For a population of 45 million, 290 constituencies are too many. Then we load on, when we were in Naivasha, we said that the women-only seats were going to have a sunset clause of 20 years. Those who went to do the final editing of the constitution removed that clause, and now the women's seats are ad infinitum. Then we have, of course, the layer upon layer of government. Before you even go to the CAS, who are not too many, provincial administration versus devolved administration. I have nothing against provincial administration, but the constitution is very clear. Section 17 of the transitional clauses says, align provincial administration with devolution. Look at very simple things. There is a structure in the counties called Manyumba Kumi. They don't report to the county government. They don't work with the county government. The police in the counties, you have the county police commander, you have the county police CID and so on. They do not work at all with the county governments. Yet, all these structures are drawing salaries from the same exchequer. Look at the administrative structure. You have a governor, you have a county commissioner. You have a sub-county administrator, you have a sub-county commissioner. You have a ward administrator, you have an equivalent of a DO, now they call themselves CCCC something. You have a village administrator, you have chiefs. All these people are doing the same thing. And they're costing this country more than 5 billion per annum.
All right. There we have One Wetangula also complaining about the overrepresentation and why it's necessary for us to review the constitution. Not that he's necessarily supporting a referendum, but he's just echoing the unanimity of us needing to review the constitution. However, as when I started earlier, I mentioned the 9 pillars that this handshake brought about between Raila and Uhuru, the origin of this particular referendum we are discussing today. And there's one, ending divisive politics. I'd just like to ask you, as young people, is having this referendum likely to interfere with the peace and cohesion of this nation?
Well, referendum, looking at the Constitution, Chapter 16, Article 257, it gives a very clear structure of how to conduct a referendum. I'm looking at it in terms of the cost. As I said, it will cost around 10 billion. Looking at the last general election, it costed Kenya 45 billion, and it was one of the most expensive elections in the world. So in 2022, we'll be having a general elections.
Yeah.
And then we have another this of 10 billion again coming in between. And we know that always the atmosphere when it comes to elections. We have a window of around 3 months when that draft is taken to the county assemblies.
Yeah.
You can imagine the level of lobbying politics within the county assemblies,
Yes.
trying to discuss about the issue of the draft bill. So I think when we're trying to tie, you can never separate peace and politics.
Yeah.
Because the way it's played in Kenya, there are no strict rules on how it should be conducted.
Okay.
And we have just come from an elections whereby we had a lot of tribalism. That's what brought the handshake, because of the so much difference and animosity which was there. So I think we do not need the issue of what we had of the other time, the banana and the orange, and we had a lot of animosity which even brought about the new political affiliations, the banana, the ODM, and all that. So I think it's a time also we try to think constructively on what is also going to bring impact and also peace, as opposed to thinking of few interest individuals, and also trying to satisfy the ego of
So
some
it's also
few
in the best interest of peace for us to not have this referendum right now. Okay.
Logically, we must have priorities as a country. The plebiscite or the referendum in question that we are speaking about, we should look at what is this referendum going to address. If one of the tenets of this referendum is to address peace and inclusivity, then in that case, the referendum is inevitable. It is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
It is bound to happen. It is a proposal from the government, that is from the handshake team, and the opposition, that we need to have numbers of people representing the public reduced to cut the cost of running government. You saw the other time, around 1 week ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta brought drastic austerity measures to ensure that at least he can have money to run government. If we can have a referendum that is going to address the common mwananchi problems, things to do with number one, inclusivity that we've been speaking about, will solve probably tribal animosities. We are going to have more money at the counties. Then I would say we should prioritize the referendum, let the referendum come, but at this moment we need more experts, because we don't want flaws from what I've seen Bungoma Senator hinting. That look, for example, we had a constitution that was promulgated. This constitution was supposed to give a free room and space for devolved administration to operate. Until now, we still have regional commissioners. We still have some people calling themselves county commissioners, and they were not in that constitution. You get it? It was supposed to pave the constitution was supposed to pave way for the structures that were placed within that constitution. We still have operating offices that were in the previous constitution, still trying to jeopardize and frustrate the devolution itself. So for me, I think the plebiscite or the referendum is a priority of this country if we have to solve the problems we are having as a country moving forward.
All right, but do you believe that doing it now might cause conflict?
I don't believe it will cause conflict, because it is in the interest and majority of Kenyans that we need to change a constitution to ensure, number one, we have inclusivity and we reduce the number of people representing us.
Okay.
Yeah. So it won't cause any conflict.
So according to you, it will not interfere with the peace at all?
It won't.
All right. Let's hear from the 8th Governor.
You know, referendum is a political process. And when I look at our country right now, our country is fragile. Look at what is happening in Mau.
Yeah.
Look at what is happening, you know, in the northern and eastern part of the country. And unfortunately, in our country, politicians have used referendum as a tool, you know, to gauge their political muscles. So to some, they would really vote for it so that they can understand, you know, the dynamics in the country. Do I have support in this region? Do I have support in this region? So the challenge is, if the will is not right and if the motive is wrong, then I don't really think we need the referendum right now.
So if the motive is wrong, then we don't need the
Yeah, we don't
referendum
need
right
it.
now.
Yeah.
All right, so as a party shot, because it's about time we conclude this segment, we'd just like to hear your message to the youth. As youth leaders, what would you tell them to do? Okay, all the politics aside, what would you tell them to do about this? What decisions should they make? Should they even participate in these processes? If they should, why? And what should they do about it? Let me start with you, Kapiria, as we conclude.
Well, I think as the young people, the first thing you need, the tool is information. Sometimes we don't get this information from the sources we may want it to come from, especially from our leaders. But we are so privileged. We have internet, we have all that. Especially looking at the process of the referendum, the cost implication, the motive behind it. With that, we can be able to make credible decisions, whether to support it or not to support it. As my friend from that way said, if the motive is pro-youth or pro-empowerment, also reducing the running cost, it's the high time we look if it's favoring us and the generations, then, and we know the details and information about it, we can be able to gauge our decision, but not just they are hyping and all that, supporting because it's coming from a politician who I happen to know. So get the information right, get your research right, get to know what is said in that referendum. Yeah, that's my message.
All right, but you're ready to make sacrifices so long as it's going to help us in the long run. That's
Definitely,
what I've also
yes,
understood
yes,
from you, POP. All right, let's hear from you though.
To youths outside there from four corners of the country, what probably I would urge all of us to do, we have to participate in this country's activities actively from the word go. Majority of countries that are successful because of the position of youths and women, because of what youths advocated for and finally probably achieved. I would want youths across the country, wherever we are making decisions, wherever the issues arising that are of national concern, let us come out to participate. Let us give our view, and if possible, we can revolutionize this country and win all the seats. Because either way, we are the majority, and we are the poorest, and we are the people who are seeking for these offices. I would want us to rally ourselves, come out and tell these old dogs to keep off us, make decisions that we believe will push this country forward. Thank you.
All right. Let's hear from the youth
I
governors.
think young people need to be proactive. And like my colleagues have said, we need to yearn for information because information is power. And in fact, the Bible says people perish because of
lack of knowledge. Yes.
Lack of knowledge. This is a challenge in this country. Young people think there's a special group that should, seek for this information. Yet this information affects their lives, long term or short term. So young people need to rise up. They need to wake up to the challenge because they are facing it. Issues of unemployment, issues of depression. Look at what is happening on our social media. Young people are committing suicide because they cannot handle life anymore. Let's get out there. Let's determine our future. These guys have already lived their lives. Raila has nothing to lose. Uhuru has nothing to lose. Ruto has nothing to lose. We are the ones who are losing. So we need to rise up. We need to define the kind of a country that we need. And we need to go and seek solutions for our country. But again, the challenge to our young people is, are we ready to do that? Are we prepared? Because we usually say opportunity meets a prepared mind.
Opportunity meets a prepared mind. Okay.
My friend, if you are given an opportunity, can you really exemplify your leadership that is different from what we've been seeing and complaining about? That's the challenge that we need to reflect on as young people.
All right, I like that. So what I've gotten from you guys is information, participation, and being prepared to do something about it. All right, so in the spirit of taking action, you have been watching Youth and Politics with me, Hilda Wadidi, and I've had the able Kapiria, PU, and Joel representing the youth governors of Kenya here in studio today. And we had a very, very interesting conversation about this particular referendum that's being proposed and how it impacts you as a young person at home who is watching. So take action, get some information, be informed, and participate, and don't be afraid. Women, like somebody said, women and youth, yes, make sure you don't let anybody tell you this is a man thing. But then next week I'll make sure I have ladies here so that I can also example, I'll make sure I have ladies here. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. You're watching at Y254 channel, and One Kalami Valentine is coming up with Man Crush Mondays.